like to give the floor to Mr. Jan Braat. Jan is a senior policy advisor on migration and inclusion in the city of Utrecht. Is one of the 4 major cities in the Netherlands, as you know. He works in the Department of Social Welfare and is dealing with matters around homelessness for the last 20 years, inclusion, as well as undocumented migrants and asylum policies. In 2016, Jan was the co-founder of the successful Pan Einstein, which is a concept in which refugees are supported through the Urban Innovative Action Fund and the European Commission. So we will hear more about this initiative that Jan co-founded. So Jan, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours. My colleague Miranda will be sharing the slides. So please just indicate to her when you would like us to change, okay? Thank you, and the floor is now yours.
I will do. Thank you for the invitation to talk a bit about this innovative project. It's called Pan Einstein, and as you said, it was started in 2016 with a high influx of refugees. I don't see, the slides are coming now. Pan Einstein, maybe next slide, I will go. This is some picture about how on the European level the migration policy is perceived by much of people also in the local communities in Utrecht. Next slide, please. This is the way people perceive the national procedures of the influx of migrants, and you see it's quite complicated, and people think it's full, and a lot of problems. Next slide, please. This is the way we in Utrecht look at trying to solve the problems around migration. And that's what Albert Einstein says: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So we need to do something different. And that's what we did. Next slide, please. First, some pictures. People look at the influx of migrants on exclusion, segregation, all kinds of problems. Maybe better is to integrate, but you see at the dot with the colorful, then it's not really working. The main thing is what we want to do is inclusion. That they are, as we in Utrecht say, migrants are also Utrecht citizens, and we want to include them. Next slide, please. So in a way, this is another way of telling the same story. We go from inequality to equality to equity, that people are almost equal to justice. Next slide, please. So this is the polarization and tension which is happening. This is a picture of when we wanted to put an asylum center in a poor neighborhood in Utrecht, and we thought, and one of the people from the neighborhood told us, all those refugees get everything, but what do you do for us? My son also needs housing. I also need support. And we were thinking, you're right. We have to do something with this comment. Next slide, please. So we thought about Pan Einstein, because that center was on the Einstein Street, and I showed you also the quote of Pan Einstein, from Albert Einstein, and we thought we want to change the narrative from intruder into a present. We listen to the dire neighborhood of their needs and the fear. So we listen to what the woman says. We create a common language between people from the neighborhood and the migrants. And that's not Dutch, because that's quite difficult to learn, but we give free English classes for all. But we create an urban housing. So the son of that person from the neighborhood could also gain from a new asylum center. And we had 40 dedicated neighborhood youngsters living as good neighbors next to 300 or 400, sorry, 400 asylum seekers. We give free entrepreneurship classes for all, because entrepreneurship is something also to be creative for yourself, but you can also find earn money with it. All the classes for entrepreneurship are for people from the neighborhood and for migrants together, so they can set up a business together on, I don't know, a restaurant or whatever, or painting, and that's what is happening. And by learning together on an equal footing, people get to know each other, and there's much better knowledge about their situation and working together. We give all kinds of free social activities for all. We have an organization called Welcome in Utrecht, and all activities are also open for people from the neighborhood and Utrecht citizens, among asylum seekers and refugees and other migrants. And we have a free, open, welcoming space, what we call for meaningful encounters. So people can meet and find what they have in common. So we create with the refugees and with the neighborhood an equity. And also, for example, the welcoming space is designed by people from the neighborhood, by migrants, by refugees together. Next slide, please. So what is the magic formula? We create an organic ecosystem between neighborhood and asylum seekers. We find a common denominator for activities in which both are interested. We honor a level playing field in those interactions. We get the best people you can find to do the job. We have found all kinds of new organizations who had no experience in the refugee or a migrant field, but we asked really innovative young organizations to help us. Be sure that you have a sense of humor, because you get a lot of problems, and involve young and bright young people, refugees, but also from the city of Utrecht. Next slide, please. So this is what we did. We designed the building, and the design, and the youngsters and the refugees who came to live here were helping to rebuild the building, so that it created a sense of belonging, and we had to make it more attractive. So on the right side, you see the Pan Einstein part of the outside the building, but next to it, where the yellow and blue containers are, that's the site of the National Agency for the Reception of the Asylum Seekers. This you see a bit. We want to make it more attractive for people to come there. Next slide, please. So we did this for 3 years, and I have to say it was not possible. It was before it was said, the funding. It was we got funded by the Urban Innovative Action from the European Commission, and that was essential for making Pan Einstein work. Because if we would have taken this plan to the national authorities, they for sure would have said no. And because of the direct funding of cities, and so also of the local communities, it was possible to make an innovative project. So without direct funding, it goes to all kinds of national authorities. It becomes a bureaucracy, and the innovation going out of the window. That's not only our experiences, but also experience from cities across Europe. So when Pan Einstein moves to also another asylum center, and also into different neighborhoods, we made different welcoming spaces, and also the design, you see it on the attic, the signs were made by refugees and people from the neighborhood themselves. Next slide, please. Now these are, so we created also different hubs in the neighborhood. So not only that the people from neighborhood came into this asylum center, but the other way around, the refugees also become active in different hubs in the neighborhood where all kinds of activity is. So the Wild West is more about play and playing music. On the right, you see some what we call feminist artisan clubs. We see painting. We see making music cells, and there are different organizations you see on the left side who are helping us, and it's always inclusive with people from the neighborhood, with Dutch people, with refugees, with migrants. Next slide, please. These are some plays on the left you see in the Wild West, and you see some artisan and some sport activities on the right side. And again, it must also be fun. It must also be fun so that it's attractive for everyone to participate in this kind of activities. And not only to participate, we also want in a co-creation that the communities, the local communities or the migrant communities come up with initiatives, what they need, what they want. And we always try to facilitate them with our organization, Welcome Utrecht, or other organizations to facilitate activities, so that it becomes, Pan Einstein is not something of the municipality, but it becomes something of the people and the communities themselves. This next slide. Now you can read much more about it, but I also have to say, because we could experiment with the Urban Innovative Action funding, and now we fund it ourselves, and partly we get money from the national government also for our Pan Einstein activities. Why we get money now from the national authorities? Because they see it's a success. They see it's possible to have a positive impact for the neighborhood, also with a difficult subject as an asylum center. And it changed the national policy in the Netherlands because of Pan Einstein, that, for example, the co-housing with youngsters is now part of the national policy. It's now possible that all refugees can be active from day one, which was not possible before, and that there is much more room, and we get much more spaces where the people can meet and do the activities and learn together. And this is now perceived also by the national government in their policies as the way forward. So social innovation is possible, but we need direct funding from the European Commission, because first you have to show it's working, and then it can change the policy. And without that direct funding, it will not happen. Next slide, please. You can read also some videos. If you click on this site, the slides can be sent to everyone that's okay with me. And I hope this can be interesting, that communities can find a way to even tackle together with the municipality and with the European support of the European Commission or other European organizations to change national policy, even on a difficult topic like migration. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much for your presentation, for the strong messages that you bring in. I think it's a fantastic example of social innovation, a new way of doing things, in this case, for integrated migrants and refugees. I think you made a strong message about an issue that emerged when supporting innovation and the uncertainty and the risk of implementing something new, and that policies need to enable taking that risk. So I think it's an important area we should be looking at and move forward.